Do you find you can understand your teacher in a classroom, but you can't understand fast-speaking natives on TV, movies, or YouTube? The best way to fix that is to practice listening to real-world English. And that's what we'll do today. We'll listen to clips from an interview that Tom Holland gave on the Jay Shetty podcast, discussing why he quit social media and how the media reacted. Your English is excellent if you can understand these clips. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. In this lesson, you'll listen to a clip from the interview 3 times, and you need to write down what you hear. Don't worry if it's difficult. Afterward, you'll learn from my full explanation. Here's the first listening exercise. Let's listen 3 times.
I was in New York. I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job. I was in New York. I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job. I was in New York. I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job.
How'd you do with this one? I was in New York. I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job. Let's review I was in New York. Notice here it's to be, the preposition in. You can use this for a country, state, or city. So if your friend asks you, are you at home? And your home is London or Paris, you can say, actually, I'm in New York. I've been in New York for 2 weeks. I'll be in New York for 2 weeks. And if your friend asks, what are you doing in New York? That leads us to our next word. I was shooting. And then he said the crowded room. That's the name of the TV show, I believe. To shoot, this is a verb that's used in the movie industry. It means to make a movie, TV show, advertisement, or video. Right now, I'm shooting this video. Now, his verb tense was in the past continuous because the action continued for a period in the past. He started shooting on day 1, and then he continued shooting until day 25. Tom Holland is British, so he pronounced that T in the middle, shooting. That is not something that American speakers do. We use a flap T, so it sounds like a soft D, shooting, shooting. Your next listening exercise was a long one, was having a really hard time with. This is an important expression, which is why I wanted you to practice listening to it. The expression is to have a hard time with plus noun, if you identify a noun. This simply means you find something difficult, challenging, or stressful. You could say, I had a hard time in the past. I had a hard time with fast English until I found Jennifer's channel. Does that describe you? If it does, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. And don't worry about taking these notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now, if you don't use a noun, you can use a gerund verb. I had a hard time understanding fast English until I found Jennifer's channel. So the same sentence structure, to have a hard time plus gerund. Hard is the adjective that was used here. You can use a synonym, hard, difficult, challenging, frustrating, or other adjective. Here's your next listening exercise, and you'll hear the part we just reviewed before this.
I was in New York. I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job just because of how taxing it was. I was in New York. I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job just because of how taxing it was. I was in New York. I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job just because of how taxing it was.
Did you get it? Just because of how taxing it was. Let's talk about taxing. First of all, the sentence structure is to be taxing. So it uses the auxiliary verb be. Taxing functions as an adjective. And this means difficult or needing a lot of thought or effort. You might say, learning English can be taxing at times. Can is your modal verb, so you use be, the base verb, following it. Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Notice he said how taxing it was. You could start with a gerund verb and say shooting the crowded room was taxing. So here you're describing the activity, shooting the crowded room. Was your verb to be, conjugated in the past simple, singular, and then taxing. But his word order is different. He said because of how taxing it was. So here we have because of, how, adjective, in this case taxing, subject, verb. This is used to talk about the degree or extent of that adjective. You might say, because of how taxing weeding my garden is, in this case, physical effort, I didn't go to the gym today. To ask a simple question, you would say, how taxing is weeding your garden? So notice that is question form. To make a simple statement, you would say, because weeding my garden is taxing, so here we're using to be taxing, I didn't go to the gym today.
I was in New York. I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job just because of how taxing it was.
The next listening exercise, and I will listen 3 times.
And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life. And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life. And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life.
How'd you do? And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life. First, let's review decided to delete. This is the regular sentence structure. We have our verb decide, which is conjugated, and then we have the infinitive. I decided to improve my English. You can use an alternative sentence structure and say, I made the decision to improve my English. This is more formal. It's also more emphatic. It sounds like a deliberate, conscious decision. So the sentence structure here is make the decision and then infinitive, to improve my English. Let's move on to I was so addicted to. So here the expression is to be addicted to. To is part of the phrase. Because of that, it functions as a preposition. You can use a noun, or if you use a verb, you need the gerund verb. And this means that you're unable to stop engaging with or wanting something, even if you know it's harmful. You might say to your friend, you're addicted to your phone. So remember, you need the verb to be conjugated. You also need to. Addicted to. Or you could say she's addicted to, and then a gerund, checking her notifications. You could use this in a playful way and say, Jennifer, I'm addicted to your videos. It is possible to use this in something that isn't necessarily harmful for us, or we just want to be quite dramatic when you claim you're addicted to chocolate, but in reality, you just really like chocolate. So you can use it in a more playful way, but he was using it in a more harmful to his life, negative way. He said, I was addicted to this kind of false version of my life. Now, in spoken English, kind of will form a reduction and it will sound like kinda, this kind of false. So false means fake, not real. You might say passing a multiple choice grammar test can give you a false sense of confidence in your English fluency. It's false, it's not real. You had a 50% chance or 25% chance of getting it right. Or yes, you got a high mark on that grammar test, but then you can't actually have a conversation. But don't worry if that describes you. That's why you're here improving your English with me.
And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life.
Our next listening exercise, working. Let's see.
I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll.
How'd you do? I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. Did you hear I would be? So here, would and then base verb. This is used for a repeated or habitual past action. Now, it's very common to establish the past time reference. You commonly hear natives say, when I was a kid. So now we know the time period. Yes, it's very broad, but we understand it. When I was a kid, I would jump in puddles whenever it rained. Did you do that? And you didn't just do it one time, it was a repeated habitual past action. Or for a time reference, you might say, before I deleted Instagram. So now we know the time reference is when you had Instagram. Before I deleted Instagram, I would scroll for hours. So it was a habitual past action. Now, did you hear and understand I would be on set? This is another movie reference, shooting, on set. On set, this is the place where a movie or TV show is being filmed. Now, did you also hear that I'd come and sit? This is I would come. Don't worry, because in spoken English, it's very difficult to hear that soft D. I'd come. It's the context that makes it obvious that you're using I would come. Now here, notice we have I would come and I'd sit. You can omit the subject and auxiliary verb. So you could just say I would come and sit. You can do that after and if they are the same. For example, I have finished the report, written the proposal, and spoken to the client. So notice I didn't repeat I have in front of written, spoken, because they're the same. If they're not the same, you must include it. I have finished the report, written the proposal, and I'll speak to the client this afternoon. So you have to repeat the subject and the new auxiliary verb because now it's in the future simple. Here's your next listening exercise, and you'll hear the part we just reviewed before this.
I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. And it was becoming a problem. I was just obsessed with it. And it was becoming a problem. I was just obsessed with it. And it was becoming a problem. I was just obsessed with it.
How'd you do? And it was becoming a problem, and I was just obsessed with it. So here, let's review to be obsessed with, and then a noun, something. This means you're unable to stop thinking about something or someone. It implies that you're too interested in something or someone. Yes, you can be very interested, but if you're too interested, that sounds negative. And in this case, obsessed with it, what's the it? Well, it's his Instagram or scrolling on Instagram. Now, you could say he's addicted to his Instagram, which means he's unable to stop using Instagram. You can also say he's obsessed with his Instagram, and this means he's unable to stop thinking about his Instagram account. And of course, notice those preposition changes. Addicted to, obsessed with.
I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. And it was becoming a problem. I was just obsessed with it.
Our next listening exercise. So I decided to, let's see how you do.
So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do. So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do. So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do.
Did you get this one? So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do. Let's review make an announcement. This means to publicly or officially tell people about something. The company made an announcement about the new CEO. You could also say the company announced the new CEO. So here, announce is the verb that's conjugated in the past simple. And as the verb to announce, it means to publicly or officially share information. And it focuses more on the information being shared. Notice he said, unfortunately. This is an adverb. It introduces information that's negative, disappointing, or unwanted. So it tells you that Tom Holland didn't necessarily want to make the announcement. You might say to a friend, unfortunately, I can't come to your party. The position is flexible. You could also say, I can't come to your party, unfortunately, and add it at the end. Now he said, which unfortunately we have to do. What does do represent here? Make an announcement. We use do to avoid that repetition. So it would be repetitive to say, I told him to call the client and he called the client. I told him to call the client and he did. So you have to conjugate do because this is in the past simple. Here's your next listening exercise and you'll hear the part we just reviewed as well.
So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do, and say that I'm taking a break from social media. So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do, and say that I'm taking a break from social media. So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do, and say that I'm taking a break from social media.
Did you get this one? And say that I'm taking a break from social media. Let's review to take a break from. Now, from's a preposition, so you can have a noun or a gerund. This means to stop doing something for a period of time, usually so you can rest or relax. You might say studying grammar is taxing. Remember, to be taxing. I need a break. I need a break. So here you can just use a break. We use take a break when you're suggesting. You can suggest to yourself, I need to take a break, or you can just talk about the something, a break. Now, if I'm leading a class, I might say, let's take a 15-minute break. And here I'm using 15-minute as the adjective to describe the break. Just don't say, let's take a pause. That's a direct translation, and we do not use pause to mean break. Remember, if you continue on, you would identify a gerund verb or a noun. Let's take a break from studying grammar, or you could simply say from grammar without the gerund, from grammar, and watch some real world clips.
So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do, and say that I'm taking a break from social media.
Are you ready for your next listening exercise? And the thing that really upset me is, let's find out.
And the thing that really upset me is the press ran with that, and they tried to make out that I was having this mental breakdown. And the thing that really upset me is the press ran with that, and they tried to make out that I was having this mental breakdown. And the thing that really upset me is the press ran with that, and they tried to make out that I was having this mental breakdown.
How'd you do with this one? Is the press ran with that, and they tried to make out that I was having a mental breakdown. Here, the press, this is the media that reports news. So it could be newspapers, magazines, videos, any avenue. The press, the media. Now let's review the press ran with that. Now this has nothing to do with running. In the context of media, to run with a story or to run with news information, this is to develop or exaggerate information into a full story or a full narrative. So maybe a celebrity would be telling their friend, I wore sweatpants in public once, and the press ran with that and claimed I was having a breakdown. So the press took that one incident, that one piece of information, and they turned it into a full story or a full narrative. And he said, try to make out. Did you get the meaning of make out here? It means to claim or suggest. So you could say, my coworker made out that I didn't do any work. In American English, that's not a common expression. We would say my coworker made it seem like I didn't do any work, or simply suggested, claimed I didn't do any work. Now, a mental breakdown is a serious emotional or mental crisis. You might say she was under so much pressure that she had a mental breakdown and couldn't work for months. So it sounds very serious. You may be familiar with the phrasal verb to break down. For example, she completely broke down after her husband died in the accident. This phrasal verb means to become extremely upset and unable to control your emotions.
And the thing that really upset me is the press ran with that, and they tried to make out that I was having this mental breakdown.
Our next listening exercise, are you ready? And what upset me was, we'll listen 3 times.
And what upset me was, if I was having a mental breakdown, that's not for you to report on. And what upset me was, if I was having a mental breakdown, that's not for you to report on. And what upset me was, if I was having a mental breakdown, that's not for you to report on.
How'd you do? And what upset me was, if I was having a mental breakdown, that's not for you to report on. Do you notice anything about if I was having? Well, I have to be honest. That sounds perfectly natural to me as a native speaker because all of my friends say, if I was you, I'd quit. But as an English language teacher and on your IELTS, you shouldn't say that. You should say, if I were you, I'd quit. Because this is a hypothetical, unreal situation, and you must use the subjunctive. Now, with the subjunctive, all tenses use were. That's why I were. There's no conjugation. But just know, on your language exam, you should absolutely say, if I were you. But in everyday English, you will rarely hear that outside of a teaching environment. Now again, with report on, notice mine is that soft D, report on, report on. But in British English, they have a stronger T, report on. But that's not what I say report on. Now, to report on, this is to give news or information about something, especially as part of the media, the press. You could say the BBC first reported on the story, and later CNN reported on it, the story. Our next listening exercise, the story. Let's see how you do.
They took the story in the wrong direction. They took the story in the wrong direction. They took the story in the wrong direction.
Did you get it? They took the story in the wrong direction. So here the expression is to take something in the wrong direction. This means to cause something to develop in an unintended or undesirable way. So they interpreted the situation incorrectly and reported on the wrong kind of story. Our next listening exercise, and let's see.
And they painted again this negative light on mental health. And they painted again this negative light on mental health. And they painted again this negative light on mental health.
How'd you do? And they painted again this negative light on mental health. So notice what happened in that clip. He started talking and he said, and they tried, but then he realized that's not what he wanted to say. So he simply changed and said, they painted, without missing a beat. Here's what he didn't do. He didn't say, stop the interview. Oh, I'm so sorry. I said the wrong word. He just ignored it and kept going because that's normal and expected. This was a 2-hour interview. It's expected and normal to make mistakes, even native speakers. Now let's review painted this negative light on. The expression here is to paint something in a negative light. Instead of paint, you can use the verb cast, to paint or cast. They're both common. Now this simply means to negatively portray something or simply present something in a negative way. For example, the media painted mental health in a negative light. The documentary painted modern technology in a negative light. They portrayed it negatively. Here's your next listening exercise, and you'll hear the part we just reviewed.
They took the story in the wrong direction, and they painted again this negative light on mental health. Rather than saying, oh, he's doing it, it's okay that he's doing it, so we should all feel okay to do it too. Rather than saying, oh, he's doing it, it's okay that he's doing it, so we should all feel okay to do it too. Rather than saying, oh, he's doing it, it's okay that he's doing it, so we should all feel okay to do it too.
How'd you do? Rather than saying, oh, he's doing it. Did you get that? Rather than saying. The sentence structure is rather than plus gerund. This is to suggest an alternative option. Rather than watching a movie, let's go for a walk in the park. It's an alternative option. You can also use instead of. You still need the gerund. Instead of ordering Uber Eats, let's just make something. Now, if I ask you, do you want to watch a movie tonight? Maybe you say, honestly, I'd rather go for a walk. So don't confuse rather than gerund with the other common expression, would rather plus base verb, which is used to express a preference. I'd rather go for a walk. Now that you understand the vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation, let's listen to all the clips at once.
I was in New York. I was shooting the crowded room, and I was having a really hard time with the job just because of how taxing it was. And I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life. I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. And it was becoming a problem. I was just obsessed with it. So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do, and say that I'm taking a break from social media. And the thing that really upset me is the press ran with that, and they tried to make out that I was having this mental breakdown. And what upset me was, if I was having a mental breakdown, that's not for you to report on. They took the story in the wrong direction, and they painted again this negative light on mental health. Rather than saying, oh, he's doing it, It's okay that he's doing it, so we should all feel okay to do it too.
Amazing job. Make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.